And then Jesus at the end says, it will be, the kingdom of heaven is like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. So that's one example. Another example where Jesus likens us to servants or uses the metaphor of servants is in the parable of the unworthy servants. So this is when basically Jesus is saying that, if you're just doing your duty and nothing more, you're just actually carrying out the master's commands. And these metaphors help us understand maybe how we should react to God's instructions or God's commands. Because the idea of a master and a servant is really that he is higher than us, his thoughts are higher than ours. Another metaphor is the father-son relationship, which is very well known. So for example, Romans 8:12 says that you did not receive the spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you have received the spirit of adoption as sons by whom we cry, Abba, Father. And then there's also the mother and the child. Okay, maybe not. Okay, I didn't really find mother and child, but there's the hen and her brood. So in Luke 13:34, Jesus is talking and he says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often would I have gathered your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. So that's 3. A 4th one is the bride and bridegroom. So that's also very, very well known. The entire Song of Solomon is basically like the 追 that kind of pursuit kind of the thing. And in Revelations we have us or Jerusalem and the church being compared to a bride, and Jesus is coming as the bridegroom, and then there's the whole wedding feast, and so that whole metaphor is quite well known as well. But what I want to focus on today is the idea of a relationship with God as a friendship. And I think this is not very well known in the sense that it's not as focused on as the other relationships in the Bible, I think. And the starting point of this is John 15:15, when Jesus says, no longer do I call you servants, for a servant does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends. For all things that I heard from my Father, I have made known to you. And why I think it's important for us to understand our relationship with God as a friendship is because each of the metaphors give us a different idea or a different understanding of how God relates to us. So even if we think about it, like just very briefly, right, even with our own human relationships, the way that we interact with our parents will be very different from the way that we interact with a friend. There are some things that we only tell our friends, we don't tell our parents, but then there are also some things that we only tell our parents and we don't tell our friends. And maybe we are so close to our parents that we can be quite impatient with them or rude to them, but we will never do that to a friend or to a master or to our bridegroom, I don't know, okay. Yeah, so basically, each of the relationships give us a different hint or maybe an indication of something that God is trying to teach us about our relationship with Him. I mean, I think a friendship there's something very special about it, that God could even say that we are His friends, because there's an idea of equality almost. I mean, not to say that God is equal to us, but He's saying that He's willing to meet us somewhere, that we are almost like on equal ground, and that He's willing to listen to us and be close and intimate to us in the way that only a friend would. And there's also a sense of choice, I feel, because we can't choose our parents, maybe we can't choose our children either, but we do choose our friends. And I guess the question is, do we actually want to choose to be a friend of God? And if we don't understand this aspect of our relationship with Him, I feel that we will be missing out on quite a precious part of how He wants us to experience Him. Okay, so that is the why. I've assumed that everyone is convinced, and we will now move on to what it means to be a friend of God. So there are only, or at least as I could find, there are only 3 people who are actually called the friends of God in the Bible. Not saying that others were not friends of God, but these were specifically named as being the friends of God. So I'm just going to focus on them, and then we'll look at their lives and see certain trends that we can draw to see what it means to be a friend of God. So these 3 are Abraham. Anyone know? Very good. And?
David.
No. Lazarus. Okay, so Moses, Abraham, Moses, and Lazarus. So Abraham, I don't, actually only Lazarus was verbally called a friend of God by Jesus. The other two were kind of like other people said that, oh, actually they were a friend of God. So for example, Abraham, in Isaiah 41:8, it refers to how Israel was my God's servant, Jacob whom I have chosen, and the offspring of Abraham, my friend. And in James 2:23, it says that Abraham believed God, and it was accounted to him for righteousness, and he was called the friend of God. For Moses, we have that reference in Exodus 33:11. It says that the Lord spoke to Moses face to face, as a man speaks to his friend. And for Lazarus, that's in John 11:11, and this is during the whole drama when Lazarus is like sleeping, and then people are crying, and then Jesus comes, and then he says, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go to awaken him. Okay, so I think there are 3 or 4 trends which I kind of gathered from these people. The first one is that they were all in agreement with and in obedience to God. So, for example, Abraham, he obeyed God's commands even though he didn't really know where God was leading him. Right? So Genesis 12:1 says, the Lord said to Abraham, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great so that you will be a blessing. And then it just says, so Abraham went, as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. So his obedience to God is really like, at least in the Bible, it's like almost immediate. He doesn't really know where he's going, doesn't know what the land will be like, but he just followed God. And when I was thinking about this, I was like, is that really possible or realistic, or is there a lot more backstory to it actually? Because why would Abraham just go just by hearing some God, right? Because I mean at that time I'm sure like many other like false gods and stuff. How does he know that this God is the real God, and then to follow this God? And I'm thinking that maybe it's because Abraham had already cultivated a friendship and a relationship with God that would make him be able to trust God so quickly. In that sense, there's a foundation there that forms the basis of the obedience. And the same goes for Moses. I think there's so many examples of Moses being obedient to God and following his calling. Although I think Moses was also a bit different because he wasn't exactly like so obedient. It wasn't like God said, oh, just go, and then he just go. He's like, I can't, I need the gifts, like miracles, and like show my stuff, become a snake. And then like after that, he still say, oh, I can't speak. And then like then God said, oh, ask Aaron, and something like that. So his obedience is maybe more faltering, but he still got there in the end, I think. Yeah, so both of them were obedient to God, and I think the obedience that we're talking about here is not robotic, it's not formulaic, it's not like God just say do, then okay, I'll just do, even though I don't really want to do it and I don't understand it, and maybe sometimes it's like that, and I don't really want to, but I think it comes from the foundation of having a friendship and relationship with God. So, for example, sometimes when Ariel tells me to do things with me, I'm like, no, I don't understand it, but I still do it because I kind of trust her, especially when I maybe like direction, because I have a very bad sense of direction. And sometimes Ariel's like, oh, it's over there. I'm like, huh, but it doesn't really look like it's over there. I don't really think it's over there. But then sometimes I just, okay, she's probably right, because her sense of direction is better than mine, so I just kind of follow. I think it's the same sense in kind of knowing, having a sense of who God is based on a friendship, rather than having something very technical and formulaic, like for example based on the word, or which is also very important, but this idea of having an experiential relationship with God is just as important in our obedience to Him. And in John 15:13, Jesus also said that greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. And then following that, that's when Jesus says, no longer do I call you servants. So I think it's the same idea. When we read this, it's like, you are my friends if you do what I command you. I mean, that sounds kind of like if someone says that to you, oh, you're my friend if you do what I command you. It sounds like, okay, then I don't really want to be your friend, because why would I be your friend if I just do what I command you? But I think, again, you have to read it in context, right? Because just before that, Jesus is saying, greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. So it's the idea of obedience in the sense of trusting in who he is and following what he says from there. rather than just a master-servant relationship. So that's again why seeing God, seeing our relationship with God as a friendship is important. And just as a side note, on this, Amos 3:3 says, "Can two walk together except they be agreed?" And when we look at this word "agreed," right, it's not just like, okay, we are just going to walk together, that kind of thing. But it's first making an appointment with someone and then walking with that person. So for example, it's like, let's meet at Bugis Junction to walk to Jurong or something. Let's meet at Bugis Junction to walk to Orchard, that kind of thing. So, but first you have to meet at Bugis Junction, right? So to me, that it's like making the idea of friendship is the place where we agree with God first that we are going to walk with Him, and there's that first step that we need to get to before then we really begin our walk with Him.
Engagement.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Okay, so the second trend is that for Moses and Abraham, they both confided in God, and God also confided in them. So there's a reciprocal conversation going on between these two people and God. And just what I mentioned just now, in John 15:13, it says, "No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what the master is doing, but I have called you friends, for all that I have heard from the Father I have made known to you." So, I mean, as a servant, it's very clear that you don't really know what's going on. I mean, even in the workplace, like, you don't really know what your boss is doing or whatever, but whatever your boss tells you to do, just do lah, like some small thing. And then maybe in the end, you finally say, "Oh, okay, that's why I was important." But I think, as a friend, it's very different, right? Because there's that mutual communication going on. And this is very clear from Abraham's relationship with God. Because when God was, he saw Sodom and Gomorrah, he actually said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do?" Seeing that Abraham, and then after that, he actually reveals to Abraham what he is going to do, because he recalls that Abraham is going to become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. So God didn't hide his plans from Abraham, perhaps because Abraham was a friend of God. And not only that, after God told Abraham about his plans, so he confided in Abraham, then there's this beautiful exchange between Abraham and God when Abraham intercedes for Sodom, if you recall, and he essentially talks to God and tells God about what he thinks about Sodom and Gomorrah, that if there are 50 righteous people, will you still destroy? And then he really pushes it. Maybe not 50, but like 5, 40, 30, 20. I wouldn't dare lah. But he really pushing the friendship there. Yeah. So, but it's very, when I read it, it's very beautiful because it's like, I mean, it's God. Like, why would God want to listen to some some human being? But he did, and he agreed even that was the case, that he would actually, not destroy if there were those righteous people there. Definitely there was no righteous people there. So, maybe that turned out differently. But still, the point remains that there was that conversation between Abraham and God.
I think he said 10.
Oh yeah, 10. So maybe there were
9.
Those poor people. Okay, yes. yeah. He said that up to 10 only. Yeah. Okay, then for Moses, it was kind of the same thing where there was an incident when God and Moses had that conversation, and an exchange of confidences between them, and it was about the incident of the golden calf. So this is when they were on the top of the mountain, and then the people were worshipping the idol on the bottom of the mountain. And then the Lord says to Moses, "I have seen these people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may burn hot against them, and I may consume them, in order that I may make a great nation of you." So God is essentially saying, leave me alone, and I'm just going to destroy all the people because they have disobeyed me. And then it says, "But Moses implored the Lord his God and said, 'O Lord, why does your wrath burn hot against your people, whom you have brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand?'" And basically what we see is Moses reminding God of the promises that he had made to the Israelites, and also of how God had already brought the Israelites out of Egypt, and how this was all to make God's name great. So he basically trying to convince God, persuade him, don't destroy the people. And again, God had a a year for Moses and to listen to him. Yeah, so that's for Abraham and Moses. And then later on we also see, like in the verse that I just mentioned, that Moses will enter the tent of meeting and the Lord would speak to him face to face as a man speaks to his friend. So I think as part of the friendship, God also invites us to confide in him. And not just in a, to me I think confiding in someone and praying to God is a bit different sometimes. Like interceding and just talking to God as a friend is quite different. And I don't think we should miss out on that part of our relationship with God. Okay, the third one is wholehearted devotion to God. So both Abraham and Moses are characters or personalities in the Bible who have said the hineni word, which is like this very like cool thing that when I first learned about, it's like it sounds so beautiful, like to be able to give yourself and make yourself wholly available to God. But yeah, so Abraham said it just before God tested him about Isaac. So God said Abraham, and then Abraham said, "Here I am," which is the hineni word. And then following that, God said, "Take your son and then sacrifice him." And then for Moses, Moses saw the burning bush, and then God called to him, "Moses, Moses," and he said, "Here I am." And I think for both of these people, they don't really know what God is going to tell them after the "here I am," like I'm wholly here. They have absolutely no idea, especially for Abraham, right? I mean, who would have thought that, like, after God gave him a son, and then he says like, "Here I am," and then suddenly God's like, "Oh, take your son." I mean, you'd be like, what? Like, really? It's a bit mind-blowing lah. But yet, the fact that, I mean, when you say that "here I am," that you have to be prepared that whatever God is going to say, I mean, that is your commitment to him, that you are available and wholly available. And I think it goes back again to having the foundation of friendship there. Because without that foundation, you won't actually be able to say, I mean, you can say it, but in your heart, you may not really be truly available to God in that sense. I think even Moses, I mean, to me, the burning bush story is very weird because, like, why would anyone look at a bush and know that it's burning for very long? Like to me, it takes some like intuitive sense to know that God is maybe doing something. Because if you just see a bush burning, you just like, oh, it's just a bush that is burning. You wouldn't know it's like eternal burning bush that is like, you know, going to be like famous for all eternity, that kind of thing. So I think it takes a sense of where God is going, or a sense of where God is leading you, and a sense of God's personality. I know it's quite, which is why I say it's going to be a bit far, but there's just that, like, for example, when you know a friend, you know what that person wants or what that person is going to think about even before that person says it. And I think if we have that kind of relationship with God, it will be quite beautiful, and I think we'll be able to understand him a lot better lah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting also because the word hineni is also used in human context. So for example, even when Abraham was going to the mountain to sacrifice Isaac, Isaac actually said to his father, "Abraham, my father." You know, maybe it's like freaking out. It's like, "Oh, I'm going to be sacrificed." and then God said, and then Isaac actually said, Abraham actually said, "Here I am, my son." So he also said hineni to his own son, which is, I mean, kind of interesting that it's again the idea of how a human friendship or human relationship can teach us something about our relationship with God as well. And just on this point, I also wanted to add that the idea of wholehearted devotion or dedication to God also means that we cannot be 猪朋狗友, like we cannot be pig dog friends. Yeah, we can't like make friends with other people who are not friends with God, that kind of thing. Yeah. And it's interesting because James 4:4 says, "Adulterers and adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Whoever therefore wants to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God." And to me, when I read this, it was a bit shocking because the word is actually saying that even, I mean, the idea of adultery is not really used in a friendship context, right? Like, we only use it in like a marriage context. But even in this case, it's saying that it's almost likening making a friendship so significant that if you betray that friendship or the loyalty and the trust that's in that friendship, you are also labeled as an adulterer or an adulteress. Yeah. So I think that shows us how almost sacred also that friendship with God is. And I think friendship, we kind of throw around the word sometimes. Like, oh, I'm friends with you. Not my Facebook friends, my Instagram friends, I follow, so I kind of know. Anyway, yeah, so it's a bit of a fickle thing that we have in this world sometimes, that we just label everyone, oh, everyone's our friend. But a friendship with God, I mean, I think it speaks for itself. It's a friendship with God. So you gotta up your game if you want to be like a friend of God. Yeah, and okay, so the fourth trend is that there's an idea of reciprocity. Reciprocity, yes. So, and this is seen most in Lazarus, I feel, because for Lazarus, we don't really know that much about him and Lazarus' life as to how he was really a friend of God. But what we see is Jesus' reaction to him. I think the fact that Jesus wept when, I think, as in there are probably many factors, like seeing maybe Mary and Martha and how the people were reacting towards Lazarus' death. But maybe the fact of Lazarus' death or sleeping on its own was also something that really affected Jesus. And I think the fact that he wept, I think people would say it's the only verse which says that Jesus wept, right? Yeah, so, is it? Did you read it? Okay, never mind. It's definitely one of the verses where it's or the shortest verse. Okay, but what does that mean? Okay, anyway, okay, yeah. So it says Jesus wept, and about a friend, and I think it really touched me to know that Jesus has that depth of emotion for us. I mean, to me, Jesus and God are always like very huge, and like things with like only big and huge plans for the world. But I think a friend cares not just about the big and huge things in your life, but spends time with you and cares about the smallest things in your life as well. And that friendship is not just one-sided. It's not just it won't just be you like giving your whole life to God and saying Hineni, but it's also him saying that he is also here if you call out his name. So okay, that is the what. Okay, next we will go on to the last section, which is how. How do we become friends of God? I think it's quite hard actually, because the answer is to just go and experience God for yourself. And it's also how do I say? So I think the Greek words, there are many different words for love, right? There's the agape one, which we should always talk about. Agape is like unconditional, but the idea of a friendship is, the Greek word for it is philos, I think. And to us it's mostly like, oh, but it's not as high as agape. Like agape is like the standard for love, right? But the idea about philos is interesting because it conveys something experiential. And I think this is where the nub of the matter is that you just have to experience God for yourself. And you can't just read about him or think about him. So I remember once, I don't know if you all remember Uncle Liang Wei, who came a few weeks ago, I think. I was talking to him once and he basically said that I was a stalker of God. Like I was just like reading about him and like, following and on the back. And then when he sees me, I'm like, oh my gosh, no, turn your face away. And then like I'm trying to find out about him from other people, like, oh, do you know like hey, how's your relationship with God? Like, what has God done in your life? And then, like, just trying to find out what he likes. And then, like, but not really, like, wanting to spend time with him. Yeah, so, as in, basically, you don't want to be a stalker of God. You want to experience God for yourself, right? Yeah, so, don't be a stalker of God. That's the lesson for today. And I think by experiencing him directly, that's when you really get a sense of who the person is, as compared to like when you stalk someone, just a weird stalker from the back. Yeah, so I think my desire for today was really for us to open our eyes to realize that there's this aspect of our relationship with God that we can really work on and that we can experience. So I'll just share a few pointers that I think help in experiencing God, but it's hard because it's really a practical thing that you have to do. So, but then I'll try to maybe give some examples as well. Okay, so the first one is that we have to recognize that, like what I said before, God is not just a big God. He's also a God in the smallest of things and in every aspect of our lives. and that we don't need to compartmentalize him to say that this is quiet time, this is God time, this is now non-God time, this is work time, this is eat time, this is other friends time. Yeah, which I think, at least for me, I definitely do a lot. But recently, because of some things that like what other people were telling me and advising me on, I did try to kind of open up my life to God in that sense. And I think there's some examples in the Bible as well, where we see God acting in a very, or Jesus acting in a very, to me, in a very curious way. And this example is basically when Jesus reveals himself to the disciples by the Sea of Tiberias. And it says very specifically that Jesus revealed himself in this way. So just imagine the disciples are fishing, right? And they don't catch any fish the whole night. And then Jesus is like on the shore, and he sees the disciples. The disciples don't know that it's him. And then Jesus tells them, cast their net on the right side of the boat, and then they cast it, and then suddenly they have like a whole haul of fish, right? And then Simon Peter does something weird, and then he puts on his clothes and jumps into the sea because he realizes Jesus is on the coast. And then the other disciples are like, they bring the boat with a whole net of fish, and then they are on the coast. And then the Bible says this, when they got on land, they saw a charcoal fire in place, with fish laid out on it and bread. And Jesus said to them, bring some of the fish that you have just caught. Come and have breakfast. Now none of the disciples dare ask him, who are you? They knew that it was the Lord. I don't know, I just love this. I love this verse that Jesus made breakfast for the disciples. I just love it so much. And it's just like, oh my gosh, like did Jesus really like grill the fish on the sea? And in my head I'm like, okay, why are the disciples even catching fish? Jesus really has a fish to grill for them. And it was just very, it's just, to me it's just like, it's a very human thing that somehow Jesus did, and it's so precious to me that he revealed himself in this way. Even like making a meal for his disciples or his friends. And I think in our life, if we open ourselves up to God, right, there are many very profound moments that you will have with God that will touch you really to the core when you least expect it. And it's really in the smallest things, I feel. And if you don't like open your eyes to that or open your heart to what these opportunities could be, then you're really, really missing out on having that personal relationship with God. Yeah, so for me personally at least, this was made most clear when I went on exchange in Belgium in my second year of uni. So I had this very weird spell. Basically I was like, okay, I'm gonna go exchange, I'm gonna be like, live on my own, and like for 1 year I was like, oh yes, I'm gonna be so totally independent, and then I got so homesick. I was crying like every day. I was like, I wanna go home. And then in December, so my exchange was 1 year. I actually came back in December because I was so homesick. I mean, my parents didn't know. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna come back because I have time and I don't have anything to do, so I'm just gonna come back. But I was like, I really want to go home. So I came back in December, and before I left, I had this very weird spell when I couldn't stop myself from crying with the thought of going back to Belgium. I was like, oh, I really do not want to go back. So every night I was just like cry and cry and cry. And Aaron knows because I was like crying in front of her like almost every night. Yeah, so but then I still had to go back, right? I can't be like just tell my uni like, oh, I'm so homesick, like can't go back on exchange, sorry. So I went back in January, and it was a really depressing period because it was winter, it was snowing. Super cold. There was no one around because everyone, I mean, the overseas students have either gone on holiday because they didn't go back home like me, or the Belgian students have gone home. And it's also exam period, so even those people who are in the city where I was in, which is a student town, are studying. So when I went there, it was really like, I can't describe it. It's like, I think probably the most sad period of my life. I just felt like such a loser. I was like, oh my gosh, just like cooking your own breakfast, just being alone all the time. But to me, it's actually the time when I was also the closest to God. Because I really talked to God like incessantly every day. You know, I was like, God help me, like I'm so low, I'm so sad, God. And there was this, I don't know, as in I at one point in time I was like, am I going crazy? Like is it right to talk to God this way? Like really, because I was really talking to him. After class I'll just be like, God, oh my gosh, like the class was so bad, I'm so bored, what do I do now? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna make my lunch, I'm gonna make lunch now, I'm gone. Because there's like no one else to talk to. And I felt that there was nothing else, because I didn't want to tell my parents because they were worried so much. And I can't keep telling my friends like, oh, I'm going to like class now and I feel very sad, please pray for me. Like it just feels like too much sometimes. But I just chose to keep talking to God. And I feel that He really listened. Like maybe there may not have been an answer sometimes, like, oh, this is what you need to do, or this is what you need to be. But it was kind of Him just being there and me knowing that He was with me, even in my own self-created craziness. And yeah, when I look back on my exchange period, if there's anything it's actually the time that I was actually the most intimate with God. Okay, so another point is to then open our hearts to allow God to work in any of the situations that we're in, but especially for trials as well. And it's how, God, through trials we are really, how do I say, more like what's more pulverized, we are molded, and it's a painful experience, but we have to, as if we don't invite God into it, then it just becomes a difficult time in our lives that we got through and we went through and thank goodness it's over. But if we allow God in, then we really begin to allow Him to work in that trial as well. I think God has the perfect answer for every trial. So for example, if we look at the storms, right, in the Bible, in one instance, for the storm, the disciples were like, God help us, the storm is like coming, and Jesus is like chilling and sleeping in the cabin, just like, why are you afraid? And you have little faith. And then after that, He calms the storm. So I think that's like one solution sometimes that God could use in the trials that we are in. But then on the other hand, there's also when there was the gales of wind, and then Jesus walking on the water, and then He invites Peter to walk on the water as well. And that's also another thing that God could do in the trials in our lives. It could be that He's going to calm the storm, or it could be that He's going to ask us to walk on water with Him and have faith in that. And I just wanted to share, actually, I don't even know if this is related, but I will just share a testimony of what happened to me recently during work. So horror of horrors, I made a mistake during work, which was like, okay, this is all P&C, but I shall not name the client or whatever. But basically what happened was that I was acting for a statutory board, helping a statutory board to prosecute someone. So usually the AGC does this, but sometimes they